story. Now hear those who were involved in making it come to life. Join us as we go behind the door.
Good evening, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Door with the Grey Rooms podcast. I am your host, Brooks Bigley, and with me tonight is the author of Season 3, Episode 14, D.I. Russell, who just wants everyone to get in a proper amount of daily exercise. How are you this evening, D.I.?
Not bad. It is a cold, wet, miserable morning here in Australia. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh boy, it's actually the afternoon over here in California, so we're just lying to everybody when we say, how's your evening doing? But you said it's a cold morning over there, huh? What is the weather normally like where you're at?
Well, what are we now in? March? So we should kind of be transitioning into autumn or fall, as you guys say. And it must have happened overnight. Because it was nice yesterday, miserable today.
So it's just going to get colder and colder for you, while over here it's just going to get warmer and warmer for us.
Yep, it gets colder and wetter. No snow, nothing too bad. It just gets very wet.
Does it ever snow down there in Australia?
Allegedly, on mountaintops, things like that, but I've never seen it. And my kids, well, I'm English, so used to the snow.
Okay.
I've been out here for about 11 years. My kids haven't even experienced it at all.
That's so funny. Yeah, there's snow around where I live, maybe 2 hours from here. But I've got, some decently sized children of my own, and they've never seen the snow either. So I guess I'm lacking as a father. I need to go take them to see some snow. However, we're not here to talk about snow. We're here to talk about your story. And what an amazing story. I feel like I should have been listening to this podcast in a movie theater. The visuals and the action and everything that you penned for this story is just phenomenal. Where did you get the idea to even start with this? Are you like a fan of Godzilla, of kaiju movies? Like, what's going on here?
Well, with this, the origins of this story was back in around 2013. I was getting quite large, shall we say. Stressful job, no exercise, bad diet, and I was really ballooning. And it got to the point of, you get to that stage where you go, I need to do something. I need to turn this around. So I started running in the mornings. And I just had the idea, it was just a very simple idea of the whole write what you know. Okay, well, I run enough to kind of, I think I can write about a runner now and sound like I know what I'm talking about. And I just had the basic idea that to have a character be on his normal run and something to be after him. And then at the end of the story, it kind of circles back that whatever he was running from, he was actually running to. And as usual, the seed was there and it started to develop. But then this was the time of the, was it Boston, the marathon bombing?
Yes. Yeah. Wow, that was many years ago already.
Yeah, and I kind of, it made me really put the idea on the back burner because I kind of thought, I don't want people to read into this and it looked like I'm trying to cash in on a tragedy. So yeah, I just kind of thought, right, I will let that one simmer and percolate. I'll do other things, and when enough time has gone by, I might come back to it. Which brings us kind of to the present, with the. You asked about the Godzilla kaiju kind of references. I'm not that big on that kind of area, but the influences were. I remember I was working in Perth, which is about a 2.5-3 hour drive from where I live, and whenever my now 11-year-old was in the car with me, he always wanted to listen to the Jeff Wayne War of the Worlds concept album from, I don't know, it was late 70s, early 80s, something like that. So I think I made the link between that kind. I wanted to write something alien invasion without going all Independence Day with it. So that the kind of giant alien creature combined with the running story fit nicely together. Certainly, there's a bit of Cloverfield in there too. I quite like Cloverfield, so that's the strange thing is when I heard Personal Best this week, I kind of had in mind, like War of the Worlds, these weird alien. I think the tripods call to each other and they have this blur, this weird sound. But Jason went with a more bestial growl, which really, it kind of swung back to, he's gone more Cloverfield than War of the Worlds, which is great. It works really, really well.
Now, you intended more than one giant creature. Am I correct? Because I felt like I read into that. I didn't realize that until maybe the second or third listening. There was more than one, right? Or you alluded to that there was more than one.
Yeah, I again had them. There's like a few references to them calling to each other, and it's a bit of a cheap trick writing wise, because I needed my character to head to the harbor. And it's like Prometheus when they're running from the spinning donut ship. Why don't they run to the side instead? I needed them to be kind of herded where I wanted them to go.
Well, that's not cheap. I mean, that just fattens the story up more. And you were very subtle with it. Like, I feel like, again, third listen, maybe I realized how the narrator was describing, somehow sensing them talking to each other, or somehow sensing that the whole city was being walled off by this attack, therefore meaning there was possibly more than one of these creatures. So no cheap tricks there. It's just part of your story process.
It was a quick, still within the realms of reality for the story. It was a feasible approach.
Mm-hmm. Right. You don't share just like, it's not like this cloud opened up and you just see this creature standing there in all its glory. So you still kind of keep it within our own imaginations that we can kind of push the clay around a little bit, and just the creature can mean whatever the listener wants it to mean to them, because it's ultimately what the creature looks like is not a part of the story itself. The part of the story is this runner trying to survive. So I love how you framed it from his perspective, kind of like how you said, like Cloverfield was from the perspective of the people just trying to get the hell away and survive, versus a Godzilla movie where we're very much invested in seeing what Godzilla does, themselves to the city, basically, or whoever they're fighting.
It's a bit, when it comes, you could have always the whatever I chose for whatever the creature would be. I kind of felt then it kind of limited what I could do with it. So you only see glimpses. It's without it being like a direct Lovecraftian thing. The whole Lovecraft angle of something so beyond our comprehension that it can't be described. I think it's maybe better for the story to therefore just see glimpses and keep it hidden, rather than the creature steps out and the character goes, "Oh my God, I can't even describe what I'm seeing." I don't think that really helps. So you could do the same thing, but just change that approach slightly. I think it worked. I had the worm tentacle things, the claw that took the helicopter out, and that's all it kind of needed, I think.
Right. Yeah. I mean, exactly, because that's the point of contact between all of these victims in this story, meeting this creature. They're never, they didn't need to see the whole creature because they weren't interacting with the whole creature. It was these tentacle-like things that were slowly making their way through the city from whichever angle, grabbing everybody. That was the thing to run from. Yeah, you gave me, as I was listening the very first time, I just kept looking up into the sky like, holy shit. Like I could just feel the scope of the story myself, and I'm from San Francisco, so I'm very familiar with like specifically a city that might have like a harbor. San Francisco is a peninsula, so it's surrounded on three sides by water. So I'm very familiar. It just kind of hit me a little bit more than, let's say, maybe a listener who lives out in the middle, of landlocked area somewhere. So excellent story writing. Now, what was, if I can just directly ask, was the runner's experience, did he have some kind of unfortunate event where his child had been drowned or something to that effect?
Yeah, that was the idea, that with previous behind the door episodes, when we've discussed kind of my story and alluding to the wider story, with the creature, why is it dragging people in? I don't know. There's no kind of wider meaning there, but with the actual character, yep, spot on. Without kind of spelling it out, there's a lot of references to it's because my day job is as a therapist, working on my clinical endorsement. Mental disorders are just day-to-day life. And this had a very PTSD vibe to it, especially in the first few minutes when these tragic events from his past just keep intruding on his thoughts. These images just jump out at him. So part of his kind of his own way to deal with it is to run, because then he focuses his mind on the rhythm, on the route, on the time. But yeah, so you're right that I purposely didn't spell it out. We just have these little glimpses that he's getting, these tiny little flashbacks.
Yeah, he references not wanting to run next to the water, but it being like, maybe next time I'll run next, or maybe next time I'll run near the harbor.
Yeah, and it's like a phobia of the water after what happened. And then, kind of like I said earlier, the very, very early kind of conception of the story of the thing he's initially running from, he unfortunately runs to. He can't avoid it any longer, which is why his kind of past trauma starts to manifest in the present, that he's given the small child. He's never held a small child since that day, and he's kind of thrust into this situation. And when he ends up at the harbour, stood on the end of the dock, when I listened to it again, I kind of thought, how obvious was I with what was going through his head? That the character, he knows what will happen to this child, and he's standing there thinking, what's more merciful, to have this creature kind of claim the child, or I could just drop the child in the water and the child would drown. That might be a more merciful end than what's in store. So not only is he traumatized from what happened to his own child, where it suggests that he maybe was drinking, wasn't paying attention, and the child drowned, and it was his negligence which causes all this guilt. For him then to not only face that event again, but to go a step forward and actually do that. I think that's where we end the story, because he's on that precipice of making that choice, and the creature is right there. And yeah, it's with the grey rooms. The character has to die at the end. The character definitely dies at the end, but we don't know how. It's still that toss a coin. Does he jump in with the child, or does the creature get them? either way, he's facing the fear that he was running from.
It was almost cathartic for him. Like, he knew he was going to die, but what was plaguing him right before this attack by this giant monster? Like you said, he was thinking about his own past, and he was plagued by his own, I don't know if it was bottled up, but his own internal emotions regarding, what had happened to his own child. And then now here he is, he's staring it right in the face. He's given even like an option on how to deal with this. Are you going to mercifully take this child's life? Well, I don't want to say take, but allow this child to die with mercy away from this creature, or just give the child to the creature, basically, and let just the horrendous death of everybody continue to happen. So in my own mind, I almost felt like it would be cathartic for him that he was able to actually have some control over this death versus the death that he experienced of his own child. Not sure if I'm making sense here, but that's what I kind of got out of it. It was a cathartic death, almost something we don't usually see in the Grey Rooms.
In the especially at the beginning, when his mind is being kind of pulled and snapped, his thoughts are a bit more scattered. Towards the closing scenes, he certainly is a lot more kind of. It might sound silly with what's going on around him, but internally a bit calmer and more at peace. And I'd have to go back and listen to it again. But in the audio mix, I noticed, and this would have to go back and kind of listen to the changes more. I noticed the changes, but I need to be aware of when the changes take place. This story could have had, from the first moment of destruction, it is just destruction all the way through. And it could have been a very, very noisy episode of the Grey Rooms. But I noticed that there's moments there where all that noise, all that chaos just faded, and we were just left with the just the narrator's thoughts. So yeah, that'd be interesting to kind of go back, listen again, and see that towards the end, when he is experiencing this catharsis and he's a bit calm in his mind, what happens to the audio? Does it quieten down as a reflection of what's going on with him? You're making me want to go back and listen to it.
I know what you're going to do later today. I know what you mean. There was a scene where kind of, the sound dropped out, kind of leaving us just with his thoughts. I think that's a powerful thing to hear. We hear JM used to say when he would be on our Behind the Doors in previous seasons that sometimes the absence of a sound or the absence of music in certain scenes is even more impactful than having like a clash of sounds or a clash of music.
You can imagine if it was a movie, that'd be the slow motion scene.
Right, exactly. Well, just that the whole scene, like how you described the people, so many people like choking the streets running that other people were like using cars to hop around over the rest of the people. Like you really did a good job at describing these details that then I think it was easy for Jason to be like, okay, well, this whole scene is laid out here by DI. I just got to match up the sounds accordingly here. So yeah, you gave great fodder to Jason to create this little audio masterpiece here.
So it's my two rules for writing a Grey Room story is, one, you have to come at it from that audio angle. It's got to be interesting in terms of sound. You could have a wonderful story on paper of two people sat in a room talking, and it could be a masterpiece. But from a sound point of view, you're not giving Jason much to work with there. You need to really think of that layer. And the other rule is I always swing the opposite direction from my last Grey Room story. So we had a fast-paced, nasty season 1 story.
Right, the cannibals.
Cannibals. So to counter that, we had a very intimate, slow burner, just two people in season 2. So to swing away from that, it had to be, as you say at the beginning, big, epic, Hollywood blockbuster level. So yeah, so this was a really fun story to write with both those things in mind.
Yeah, you've covered the gamut with us. I was especially touched by your last story, with the slide, because that was a very emotional mindfuck, and we still don't know what happened and don't know where the tunnel leads, but none of that mattered. Or the tunnel, the tube, but none of that mattered. It was about those characters and what they were dealing with and the horror of what they were grappling with.
We still need those "It's just a fucking slide" t-shirts made.
That's right. Oh, I remember that was the catchphrase. It's a fucking. What was her name? Fran? Did he say Fran? It's a fucking slide, Fran. So how then did you determine? You said you wrote this story many years ago. How do you generally come up with your stories? Like, do you start with just like the general idea? I want it to be about this, and then flesh it out from there, or do you start from the beginning, work your way to the end? How do you go about usually writing your stories?
It's like having elements scattered around. So you could, in real life, see something or visit something or experience something, and just that element kind of goes into the filing cabinet. And then, I want to write, I don't know, a werewolf story. Okay, so we've got the werewolf bit. What else? So we kind of go into that filing cabinet and go, oh, remember that time I went to such a thing? What would happen if that weird, creepy guy that was on that day out, what if he was, okay, and then that's when it starts to germinate from there. I'm also starting to just put more of my interests in there. It might not entertain or really get to other people, but I think just to get that level of knowledge and insight, like for example, this sounds like a really bad idea. The current book that I'm writing, that's just a bit of a short novella, is about chilies or peppers, because I grow them, so I know a bit about them. So why not do a horror story about hot peppers? I kind of hit I'm really good at quitting. I quit all the time. I just get at times with I get sick of it, and I just go, right, that's it. It takes up so much time. I kind of feel I'm treading water. I'm done. And I have a few weeks off, and I always come back. So instead of doing that, I decided, well, I'm just going to write a short book. Doesn't matter if it doesn't sell or if no one likes it. It's just me having fun, and I'm going to try and do something different. And so I'm writing. Do you know of the cozy genre?
The cozy genre. What is the cozy genre?
Cozy genre is it always makes me think of these BBC kind of sitcoms or murder mysteries, and it's set in a little quaint little village, and there's a flower show on, and there's a bunch of old ladies pottering around, and it's all very kind of old schooly and cute and comforting, and that kind of wrapped in wool. It's like got a tea cozy over it. So I'm writing in that genre, but with my own horror spin on it. So yes, I have my little tidy, picturesque English village where not much happens and everyone knows the neighbours, etc. And we have our little group of old women that are helping out with community events. And people start to die horribly as they do. So it's up to my character and her dog, because you've always got to have a pet in there. My character and her dog to kind of get to the bottom of it and save the day. And it's just fun. It's a lot more. I kind of imagine if Terry Pratchett wrote extreme horror, It's that kind of joke, tongue in cheek, bit fun, multi-genre. Yeah, so and it has chilies in it.
That's amazing. I mean, that's come on, a picturesque little village that's got to be teeming with all kinds of horror. Like it's where you least expect it that makes it the most scary.
My first novel was similar, just because I was 20. How old was I? 23. In one of these, I was still in England at the time. In one of these little country towns, so that's where it was set. And it's kind of it's nice to go back to it, to kind of go back to where you started. And and it's fun to build your own village and to put not just an interesting lead character and villain in there, but to completely populate this village, lots of quirky characters. Then and you can kind of come back to them if you write a sequel like that. It's it's a very fun project.
You mentioned your day job as a therapist. Can you kind of shed light on horror and how horror, because you'll always hear people joke that, oh, I would never trust somebody who doesn't like horror. Or you'll hear people say, the people in the horror community, ironically, are the ones that love each other the most. Like, they're the most peaceful people. Versus you would think that, like, horror, the horror genre would just attract a bunch of, malfeasance and just terrible dredges of society. Is there something clinical behind that where horror is actually like an unspoken gift to people? Like, does horror help people unlock their own issues? Does horror help people through their own, navigate their own past in some way? Is there anything that you could speak on about that?
Personally speaking, professionally speaking, I haven't come across anything like that on the day job. It's not so much, if you watch that, you should also watch this, and definitely not the whole, if you don't watch extreme stuff, then you're not a real horror fan and you're soft. No, definitely nothing like that. But it's just the stigma of watching the nastier end of things is what I question. The attitudes, as you say, of if someone is into this, then there must be something wrong with you. Well, no.
Yeah. Well, it's the same when we were kids and we would judge each other on what kind of music you listen to. Like, why does that... There's music made for everybody. So you just go listen to what you like and what moves you. If you enjoy watching a specific kind of movie or reading a specific kind of book, that's what you enjoy. If anyone else wants to, poo-poo in that, they're just projecting onto you their own insecurities or their own issues about something.
Here's a story for you, Brooks, about music and attitudes change. So 1994, a friend of mine at high school, he got beat up because he liked Green Day.
Oh, boy.
In 1994. And around that time, my younger brother said to me, "Do you like Green Day?" I'm like, "Yeah, they're all right." He went, "Goth." So now when I see, Green Day headlining a festival and there's tens of thousands of people, I kind of look at that and go, "Oh, they're going to all get beaten up."
Yeah, it stays with you. You should love what you love and continue to love it.
Did you, on a side note, did you hear a scream about 30 seconds ago?
Did I hear a scream? No, I didn't. Did something happen? Did someone scream? I didn't hear anything.
My wife didn't realize that I was sat in the car, and she came out to get in the car and had a moment.
I did not hear that. That would have actually been great for us to hear. This is a horror podcast, so I wanted to ask you where people could find like your writings. Like, where do you have a website? Do you have a place, anywhere that we can find anything that you've written, either short stories or books or anything like that?
Okay, I tend to keep things nice and tight, and I don't have the knowledge to run a website. I normally run everything from my Twitter account, which is DI Russellmania, so capital DIR and then the Hustle Mania, all one word. And I have links to my Amazon storefront, etc. through that. And it's also, please, if anyone's listening, find me. I always like a chat. Quite, I would say it's quite a lonesome jobs writer at times, so always keen for interaction. And I've got a buttload of novels and novellas and things out there, should anyone take a look.
And we can find those like on Amazon, like a list of all your books and stuff?
Yep, all there. Again, yeah, it should be on my Twitter page. You can find it from there nice and easy. I also have a newsletter you can sign up for. You get lots of promotions on other people's free or discounted books through the newsletter too, so it's always handy to have.
Okay, excellent. How many novels have you written? I know there's quite a few, right?
Off the top of my head, I'd say about it, including the unpublished ones. 12, 15 maybe.
Okay. And then you feature in some any anthologies?
Yeah, that's something I need to get back to. I've been neglecting short stories of late, trying to get the bigger things done. But those are out there too.
Okay, perfect, awesome. Yeah, we need to spread the good name of D.I. Russell here.
You're doing it the best way possible. I always say to people with grey rooms, I always joke and say with my episodes, the writing is the worst thing about it, because everything else is just so, top grade. The voice acting, the effects, the music, everything, complete package. And I get a bit of imposter syndrome when you can hear all this wonderful stuff and the actor will say something and I can go, I maybe could have phrased that a bit better.
Man, I wish I could wave a magic wand over the whole world and get rid of imposter syndrome, because it's always the more talented people that have it, and it's always the people that have no talent that think that they're the best. Isn't that weird? I don't know why it works that way.
I could bore you with a psychological study now, but I won't.
I understand. Well, thanks for joining us tonight and sharing the proper methods of training for track and field marathons. I appreciate you taking the time to sit and chat, D.I., and I thank you for sharing your world with us here in the Grey Rooms.
Anytime, Brooks. As I said, this is year 3. I'm an old hat in the rooms now. And as long as it keeps going, I will hopefully be riding.
Don't say hopefully. Say that you will. Ensure us that you will. Please. We want to see you for season 4 as well. Absolutely.
So fingers crossed.
Well, as usual, the biggest thank you goes out to our fans and followers who listen daily and spread the good word of Bob. And remember, whenever you see all the pigeons flying in one direction, that's where you want to run towards to avoid the scary thing. #stay gray. Take care and enjoy your evening, D.I.
No worries. Thank you, Brooks, as always.
And good night, folks. Bye.
Join us each week after every episode for another edition of Behind